It is a beautiful, beautiful spring morning. So I've got the windows open. You might hear the honking of wild geese if they get really loud and territorial out there. So if you hear weird sounds that aren't me, that's probably what's going on. But I'm just loving the fresh air. It feels so good. Um, so in our practice today, I'm specifically wanting to offer some things to get our bodies ready for the season. I always think about getting them gardening ready. So to me, that means strength in our core and stability for our back, which can take on some pretty big hits in gardening. Um, and then also fluidity and strength through the shoulder girdle and wrists and forearms and so on. So I invite you to notice in today's practice, like what feels really needed to your body. Where do you feel weak? Where do you feel out of touch? Where do you feel really tight? And consider repeating those during the coming days, specifically if you're heading out to garden. I think that people forget to treat gardening like an athletic event. And we really should. It is incredibly hard work, and we tend to do a lot of repetitive stuff for hours on end, right? So think about warming up for that versus just, diving in and then kind of paying for it later. Would love for you to have a folded up shawl or throw or something. You could also sit on your block. I just find it to be a little bit physically hard. And we're going to start off with our um, kind of circling of the spine, and I'm going to do it seated. You could also do it standing, so you would just stay standing and kind of work with hips and chest that way. In the seated position, we're specifically trying to just move the rib cage. And again, if cross-legged is not comfortable, by the way, go ahead and stick those legs out into a straddle. That'd be a decent option too. But this is such a nice movement, and it's called the Sufi grind. And so we're going to go first counterclockwise. So if you can kind of think about that, you're moving forward and then left and back and right and forward and left and back and right. And there's no big effort here. We're not trying to like, oh, I want to get as big of a circle as I can. This is really about feeling what's there in terms of tension. And then, of course, lubricating all those parts that are stiff, bringing synovial fluid in and providing also some spaciousness in between the vertebrae and the discs and so on. So make sure you stay rooting and reaching while circling the rib cage. Good. And let's tune into our breath. Ideally breathing just through the nose, but if you're stuffy, you can always sip through the mouth. You can add our ujjayi, great sounding breath, so that the throat is contracting a little bit. And if you're going slow, then you could easily marry the breath with motion. So you would be inhaling in that front half of the circle and exhaling through the back half. Let's do a few more this direction. Lengthening the breath, asking, is there more? Is there more? And I hope on that back part of the circle, you're really using your core, kind of like we do during compression, drawing into the spine. We think of this as the unwinding sequence, this counterclockwise. So it's kind of a neat time to intend to let go of any patterns that aren't serving you. I sometimes like to think of language or words that I want to release. So a habit of saying, I've gotta do this, I've got to do that. Letting that go so that I have more space for, wouldn't it be fun to? And I think I might. The next time you're coming forward, pause, inhale really deeply. See if you can bring that last part of the inhale up into your chest. In recent weeks, we've been practicing Dirga Pranayama, 3-part breath. Again, nice exhale and then inhale again deeply into the chest. Kind of draw the shoulder blades back. Neck is easy. Good. Exhaling, draw back, cat back. We'll hold here for a couple of breaths. And again, nice and deep, asking, is there more? And then on your next inhale, coming forward, and then we're going to come into our clockwise circling. So we're going to go to the right and back and left and forward. And again, this is as slow or fast as you'd like to make it. If you're slow, you can marry the breath to it. And actually, more importantly, you marry the movement to the breath. We love breath to initiate motion. And so as you go this direction, what are you feeling? Do you feel different sensations, maybe down into the kind of hip, right along the hip girdle there is a place that you might be feeling when you go to the opposite side? Does it feel good when you're in the forward part of the movement and you feel your shoulder blades kind of come together, a little massage for that tight upper back? Oh. And so you're just letting the head move around as it feels easeful and giving it as much stretch as it wants now and then. And we consider this clockwise the building sequence. So a fun time to kind of solidify any intentions, any patterns that you'd like to put in place. And it might be a word that represents a particular energy or idea or goal. So when we're doing something repetitive, it's particularly easy for the mind to get all monkey mind on us and run off onto other ideas. But I encourage you, keep bringing it back. And as we do a few more rounds here, notice there is so much to pay attention to. So many areas of sensation. The breath itself, is there more? And again, whatever intention or energy you're wanting to connect with. Let's do a few more. And the next time you are forward, pause, find the rest of the inhale, and then exhaling, draw back, cat back. We're going to go back and forth a few times. Inhaling, drawing forward. Exhaling, drawing back. Is there more? And on your next inhale, just coming upright, pause, become still, and notice your breath. This is a wonderful time to affirm, I am here, this is my practice. There's nothing else that I need to know, do, or accomplish. Just the getting to the mat is such a beautiful act of love to your body and mind and spirit. All right, depending on what you're sitting on, if you're sitting, you might be able to just use this exact object. However, if it's anything higher than an inch or so, you're going to want to take it out, lay down, and lift the hips to place it back under the sacral triangle. I'm on a very soft, only like inch high deal, so I'm just going to recline right over it. And so here, noticing the kind of tractioning that this offers below spine. And this is one of the areas that often gets so tight during yard work and so on. So I want you to remember this positioning and consider turning to it. If you've been out in the garden for an hour and you're starting to feel tight, then do this. Don't wait until 4 hours later when you feel like you've got to hobble back into the house. If you're able to straighten the legs, that's marvelous, because then you can get that deep stretch into the psoas here that connects kind of in under the hip bones. If this is too much, then bend the knees. We're going to hang out here for a kind of an unusually long time here, probably about a minute. And I'd like to ask you to use this time to come into your breath awareness even more deeply. And with each exhale, you're giving into gravity. I think of it as softening the doer, letting gravity take you down, letting your limbs kind of melt, all those muscles in your forearms and hands that tend to activate in life when you're trying to make things happen. And we're going to do some really great movement today, but I want to come into it from a sense of non-striving, just greater ease. Turn your gaze up and in towards the third eye, lightly connecting the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth behind the front teeth. There's nowhere to get to. Maybe you've also got windows open and you can hear bird song and other parts of the world coming alive out there. As we do about 3 more breaths, use this time to really seduce your body into softening more deeply, giving in, melting, letting go, whatever phrases work for you. Feeling breath in the front body, back body, side body. And as you're ready to come off your object of support, bend your knees, lift the hips, and remove your object. And then come back down and bring knees into belly. A nice little spinal rocking side to side. This is a great time to roll out the ankles. Flex and point. Good. And let's come into happy baby. So clasping the ankles or behind the calves. If you're able to reach the big toes, you can put the middle and index finger between big and second toe and kind of hook on. Some people find that uncomfortable. You could bring the hands out to the blades of the feet instead. And one of my favorite adaptations of this is taking a strap or scarf across the feet as well and pulling down. Wherever you are, please, as we hold for about 2 or 3 more breaths, see if you can anchor the shoulder blades down the back and shoulder joints towards the floor and tilt your tailbone towards the floor. So we've got a really strong core anchoring towards the earth. Good. And then sliding the hands behind the calves, we're going to start exploring our half straddle, as I think of it, extending firmly out through one heel, getting that leg nice and straight if you can, and then switching, and your other heel kind of comes in towards the butt. This is a great chance to get into those hamstrings and inner thigh, IT band, all of it, but while they're not holding your weight. So this is a great chance to see, are the sides different? You know, do you have one area that's like, wow, that's super tight. I'm going to have to take care of that. Maybe you need to massage it or give it even more focused stretching before you get really active in the coming days. And then at some point, bringing the feet together. This is our butterfly pose here. And if you prefer a more relaxed version, you could just bring the feet down to the floor like so. And if you're there, you can even flap your wings a little bit. If you have the feet in your hands, you might add a little sit-up motion and even add a little windshield wiper as I think of it, bringing one foot towards your nose and then the other. Good. We're going to plant the feet flat, and I want you to see if you can bring them all the way together. We're not going to be able to come up very high with the hips as a result. That's just fine. Anchor your upper arms, kind of work your shoulder blades a little towards each other. Inhale, slow, deep, and wide. Exhale, press up. We're going to do this about 3 or 4 times. Again, it'll depend on your timing. On your inhale, descending. Is there more?
Exhaling, pressing. Don't let those thighs come apart. Really keep them squeezing. So you'll see this is a lot of the same activation we do in regular bridge, where we try to imagine that we've got a block between our thighs. But here you've got the actual reference of the legs, so you know if you're letting them kind of relax too much. I'm hoping you're really feeling deep work in the inner thigh, kind of way up near the pelvis. I sure am. Let's do one more. Squeezing, squeezing, and slowly descending. Good. Taking your feet out now more into a classic bridge, which the feet would be maybe 6 inches apart at most. And pressing up on the exhale. Keep thinking about that inner squeeze, even though the thighs aren't touching now. Inhale, release. Exhaling, press up. Slow descents on the inhale. This is where you get really important work into the back of the hamstring area, even into the glutes, because they're controlling your descent. And this is really good work for them. You know, most of us don't even go upstairs much anymore, much less climbing up hills. And we just don't get the kind of activity that we need in our posterior chain to keep it strong. And that's really what stabilizes us, keeps us from becoming too hunched forward, and allows us to be strong in our efforts. Let's do one more like that. All right, now take your feet wide into our horse riding stance. Don't worry, we'll do a nice little stretch after this. Inhale, exhale, press the hips up. Oh, yeah. And inhale, descend. And we're not really trying to squeeze the legs towards each other here so much as just think about keeping a full anchoring in the full foot. So you don't want your weight kind of falling to the outside of the foot. And that's how you'll know that your legs are working the way we want them to. Let's do just a couple more. All right, last one. Ujjayi. And come on down. Good. And we're going to windshield wiper, which should feel really good now. Taking one knee towards the center line of the mat and then the other. And we're going to go back and forth. And this, again, it's just to your timing, your exploration. Like, does it feel like you need to hold and kind of melt into it longer? Or does the going back and forth with more regularity feel right? Breathing slow, deep and wide. Might feel good too to rotate your head a little side to side. Sometimes when we're doing bridge pose, we kind of press down with our head without realizing that we're doing it. The next time the right knee is down, take the right arm up and behind. Again, deep, deep breath there. And slowly switching left knee down, left arm reaching up. And I'm just letting my head rotate to the right here because it feels good. Deep belly breaths. And slowly back to center. Walk the feet in just a little bit. And I want to give you an option of a kind of stretch here that we don't do that often. You're going to cross your right ankle onto your left thigh, just like we do for our reclined pigeon. But you're going to actually take it all to the right. So I've got my right ankle crossed onto left thigh, and I'm letting both of my legs go down to the right. And so that weight of the right foot is kind of pressing onto the left leg. Now, if this creates kind of an awkward pull or something in your low back, I would just do a regular spinal twist with both knees down, embryo pose. Otherwise, you might enjoy this extra stretch out the outside of the body, the IT bands, and I can feel it here into my low back waist area too. Again, you can always add that reach of the arm. And then as you're ready, we'll switch. Left ankle onto right thigh. Keeping the feet flexed is a marvelous way to stabilize the knees and to just keep your attention in the full body and letting everything come down to the left. Is this side different? Do you feel a different level of stretch, a different location of stretch. And please always adjust what I'm offering you so that it feels great, intense maybe, but no pain, no sense that the joints are unhappy. And slowly back to center. Good. Reverse again. We're going to cross right ankle to left thigh now for that reclined pigeon. So both feet are flexed and bring the whole deal towards the chest, hugging the right knee deeply. So get it as close to your chest as you can, and then rotate a little left. And a reminder, of course, you can always adjust and adapt. You might take your hand to your foot and kind of do a little organic movement, bringing that knee tighter and then the foot a little tighter. We're really looking to create warmth and mobility in that right hip and to get some of those tight muscles that maybe kind of geared up from sitting too much. We're getting them to release. So send another loving breath in there. Is there more? And slowly back to center. And we'll switch. Sometimes I like to roll out the ankle again, kind of, when we roll the ankle joint, it's moving stuff all the way up into the shin to the knee and so on. So all these stretches that we're doing, which hopefully release that whole line, rolling the ankle then helps kind of get all of the benefit. So let's hug the left knee tight to the chest. Reminder, if you can't really do this pose this way, you can just keep your floor foot on the floor and just kind of hug the knee, or if you can't reach it, grab a scarf or strap to be able to apply pressure. Nice and tight, and then slowly to the right. Try not to use the neck here. We've got our shoulders anchoring. We're really using our core. Send breath down into the hips. And slowly on back. Beautiful. Release the feet and join me in bridge pose for leg extension. So I'm going to keep my hands on my hips so I have a little reference point. You don't want the feet too wide apart or it makes it unnecessarily hard. And so actually join me in first, before you extend your legs, try just a lift of one foot at a time. It's a little more subtle. It gives you a chance to notice when your body is needing to counterbalance the weight, what muscles are working, and is it are the right ones? We want the core and the butt muscles to be jumping in for us. Again, not the neck. Then, if you feel ready, slowly extend one leg at a time. I like holding for a breath. It gives me a chance to notice what's happening and notice if I need to, if a hip dropped, do I need to bring it back up to even? As we do another round or so, also notice your foot. You want to have it straight up, not angled out to the outside. If you try that, you'll feel it uses a very different set of muscles than what we're trying to activate. And release. Yum. Knees to belly. All right, we're going to come onto our hands and knees, and we're going to do some more of what we were doing where we're shifting our weight. I was looking for my hair binders. They went flying. Well, I don't know where they went. All right, shifting weight. So starting off, if you would please, in your table pose. And remember all that strength and kind of engagement we created in our Sufi grind where we were circling in the beginning. I want that similar activation. And so for now, just lift your right hand and left knee. Don't do anything else with it. Just lift it. And slowly set it down. Let's do the same with the left hand, right knee. How's that feel? Which muscles are activating for you? And if that feels like plenty, by the way, keep working with that. Otherwise, you can simply start now extending those limbs. So I'm lifting right hand and left knee, inhaling, extend and hold. Take it a little out to the side.
And then back to center. And as slowly as you can, return to table. Other side. So left hand, right knee, release from the floor. Inhaling, extend. Slowly out to the side, breathing. Neck is soft. Back to center and as slowly as you can to your table. Good. Let's do that again. Inhaling, right arm, left leg. Out to the side. Returning center and returning slowly to table. Inhaling, left arm, right knee. Slowly out to the side, just a little bit of an angle here, not 90 degrees, nothing crazy. Back to center and returning to table. And it might feel good to just release a moment and really love up those wrists. We're going to be coming in a moment then to downward facing dog, where we'll be on our hands again. So again, just like I was talking about with the ankles, when we move them, how it helps release things higher up. Same thing, if you hold kind of the connection right around where everything comes into the elbow joint and you roll the wrists, you're also circulating and manipulating all these connective tissues up here. It's really, really great for us. All right, let's find a little cow-cat motion to take us into our downward facing dog. So inhaling to your cow, exhaling to your cat. The inhale cow pose, you really want to think about the heart drawing away from the tailbone. Is there more? See if you can get that last bit of breath up into the chest. And exhaling cat pose. Think about sending your shoulder blades away from one another. As you're ready, use that core and take it up and back. Bend the knees. Good. Wiggle those hips a little side to side. Really explore elongating through the upper body. It's kind of amazing how much room there is in there if you work it. All right, we're going to do something similar to what we've just done in terms of kind of counterbalancing. I want you to just slowly take the right leg flying. Foot flex like you're trying to walk on the wall behind you. Now, if this is too much, then be in table instead. Slowly return it. Notice if you're giving up any of your length and strength. Take that left leg flying. So in other words, are you hunching or bending or sliding side to side? Try to create total stability. Let's do one more time each side, and then we'll be coming to our belly. We'll get off our hands. Inhaling, extending that right leg. Create even more power through the roots of the thumb and index finger. And other side. Beautiful. Go ahead and drop the knees and come on down to your belly. Might feel great to just turn the head to one side a moment. Again, you might want to roll wrists. All right. We're going to try to intertwine our hands behind. I know not everyone can always do this. This is our yoga mudra. Anchor your pelvis. If you're able to bring the hands together, resting on the forehead, then press the knuckles towards your heels. If that just does not work or feel good, then go ahead and just play with jet airplane arms instead. And then you can really reach those fingers behind. You'll get a lot of the same shoulder blade squeeze that we're getting in yoga mudra. Option on these last 3 breaths here to root through the pelvis. Inhale, extend through the spine. Exhale, return. Inhale, extend through the spine. Is there more? And release. Last time. Maybe you want to send those legs up off the floor as well. And release. Turn your head to the other side. This is a great time to use some sighing breaths. Sighing breaths are awesome. They remind us that we are safe and whole and well, non-striving. So I love using them when I come out of a pose that's really effort-filled. It's a reminder of how to soften, how to let go. we're going to come into forearm plank, which is a pose that involves a lot of physical doing. But if we're doing it right, we should also be able to relax inside of it. So for fun, even though I know many of you do forearm plank a lot, I'd love to have you try it on your knees to start with. So you're on your front body, come onto your forearms. I like having one hand in a fist and the other hand lightly wrapped around it versus trying to go flat because I find that puts a lot of torque into my forearm area. This feels more natural. Shoulder heads anchor. Legs are together, not out wide. Nice long inhale. Exhale, draw your belly towards your spine and feel how that's starting to take you into a cat back. And then let it just raise you up onto your knees so that all the belly and main thighs and so on are up off the mat. So what I find is right away I can get a pretty good quiver going here. If you want to explore making it more intense, walk your elbows forward a little bit. So can you breathe even if you're quivering, even if this is a little hard? Soft tongue, soft gaze. Let's see if we can do 3 more. Inhaling, find the gap. Exhaling, find the gap. It gets harder to do as we become more active. Good. Let it go. Whew. Pause. Deep belly breath so that it really registers into your back. It's almost like you're pushing your belly into the earth with breath and feeling that lower back massage. Might feel good too to kind of rock the hips side to side. Or sometimes we like to bend the knees and kind of windshield wiper the lower leg. If you do that, please, it's never fast or vigorous because that can really kind of wreak havoc on your low spine if you're a little unstable already. Okay, so option to return to that forearm plank on knees. If that felt like plenty of work for you, and especially if you've got stuff in your feet that makes it hard for them to be bent, that's a perfect version. If you'd like to do it on feet, it's a similar thing. We're just going to create that kind of drawing of the belly towards the spine. However, here we also are pressing our thighs towards the sky. So that combination brings us right up into forearm plank. Again, if this is too much, come on down to knees, pause, breathe. Soft jaw, soft eyebrows. And then an invitation to just go slightly side to side with your chest. I mean, it's the smallest shimmy you've ever done. And just notice as you're doing that, how the work is shifting kind of from side to side in our abdominal area. And this is great because so much of what we do when we're, outdoors and exploring nature and gardens and so on, has a lot more twisting and lifting and stuff in it than our daily path of motion, which for most of us tends to be very kind of forward and not much side to side. Go ahead and relax onto your belly. Let it go. Whew. Yeah, it feels good to wake up our heart rate and our inner temperature, right? Feels really good. All right, so I want to offer you, when you come back to your child's pose, a very healthy transition is to once again anchor the pelvis. Then with the elbows in, shoulders down, no wings, no shrugs, plant the hands and press back. And take a nice deep breath here in child's, feeling again the stretch in the back. Okay, so I'm going to offer a version of thread the needle here. So I'm going to lift my chest, take my right arm, and I'm going to weave it through between my left knee and left hand, coming onto that right shoulder. If this is kind of neat, but a little too much, your head can't reach the ground, you could grab your block or your throw and get your head supported on that object. We really don't want ever to feel kind of cranked in the neck, right? Alternatively, you could come up and do a seated or standing version where you've got that right arm across the body, left hand pressing into the elbow, okay? So totally up to you, but breathe here. Notice what feels good, what feels needed.
I often really enjoy kind of going in and out of the edge. So, in other words, the most intense place for this pose might be where I'm rotating my chest as far left as I can, but coming out of that intensity and then returning. You can even clasp your right wrist if that feels good. I can get a stretch all the way down to my right hip if I do that. And as you're ready, we'll create the other side. So right arm is extended from your child's pose. My heels butts back by my heels. And then I'm going to slowly weave the left hand in under the right side of the body, between the hand and the knee. Again, create as much support or spaciousness in the neck as you can. One more deep breath. See if you can bring it in behind that left shoulder blade. Maybe clasping the wrist. And come on out. Good. Curl those feet under and walk the hands back to the feet. Nice ragdoll, just hanging here. On a long inhale, drop the butt first and then sweep up. I do that because it reduces pull on the spine. So this is kind of the theme that's going to take us into our next pose, in fact. One of the last things that we want to be doing is doing work of any kind, whether it's coming in and out of yoga poses or gardening, with kind of just a curve in the back. And this is having to support our whole upper body weight. And it's not in its position of strength. It's actually at a position of risk. So I want to show you a couple of things. And if you've got a scarf handy, I would have it a scarf or strap. And you don't need it this minute, but this would be a great time to go get it. So initially what I'm going to show you is something that would be a great position for brushing your teeth. So this will be a good place to practice that. So imagine that you've got your sink here, and a lot of sinks, bathroom sinks are quite low. And so we end up kind of here. Again, that position I don't want you in. So here's your invitation. As funny as you may think you'll look, I want you to take your feet kind of wide. So I've got them like so. And I'd like you to bend the knees. And right here, I've got a nice long spine, right? Just as if I'm standing. I want you to then just hinge at the hip to create the angle that you need to get your face over your sink and brush your teeth. And I want you to notice that you can stand here really quite well for a while. So I'm just going to, now that we're not brushing our teeth anymore, done with that, I'm going to take my hands, arms into jet airplane. And I'm hoping you can feel that the work that's happening here is good work. All through the backs of the legs, the butt, I've got my belly supporting the low spine. And there's no stress in the neck versus just hanging. And if you're not sure how bad it is, you can try it again and then come back into our position of strength. Now, a kind of fun thing you can add to that is taking a strap in your hands and letting your hands come apart, about hip width or so. You can always adjust and take it wider or closer if you'd like. Same stance. Find that bending of the knees, sinking the hips down. If you're not sure, try it with the spine straight up, then just hinge, and you should be able to find it. Then if you'd like, working those hands, I want you to actually pull your hands apart as if you were trying to stretch your strap, and then raise the hands a little off the back. Not a big movement here. Breathe. If you want to add some fun, bring those yoga toes up off the mat. Feel that enlivenment, that power. Good, let's do one more deep breath like this. And then invitation, if you'd like, to fold. And you're going to do that, of course, by bending the knees first deeply, then just folding the upper body down. And then pressing the strap way high towards the sky. Arms straight. If it feels good, pulse the hands back down and up a couple of times. And when you're ready to come up, pushing back through those fists,
let it bring you back up and release. Good. Just pause and notice how you feel. Another fun little thing we're going to do with our strap here before we set it aside is you're going to take your hands in front of you and have your strap or scarf just laying in your palms, like so. And this can be done with a stretchy strap if you've got a TheraBand kind of thing, or it can just be done with something like I'm using here, but imagining that you're going to stretch it. And that's essentially all we're going to do here. So you can have your hands kind of straight forward to the elbows, approximately, and then you're going to pull outward. And this is not a huge activation. This shouldn't be like, you know, again, there's no goal to actually stretch it. What I'm hoping you'll feel is just a very light but clear engagement between the shoulder blades. And while you're there, go ahead and take your head side to side. And so check that the work is happening right here in that upper back between the blades. And so you don't want to hold, and just stay holding. Kind of relax your pull. I should say you are holding. Relax your pull and engage again. Make sure you're breathing, really getting breath into the ribs here. Again, if you didn't see any of last week's work that we did, the Dirga Pranayam 3-part breath really helps entrain us to get breath into these 3 stages of the body. All right, that's probably about enough of that. You know what? Since you've got this handy, actually, let's bring this into our warrior. It's kind of a fun add-on. If you're like, I've had enough, my hands are tired, just let it go. Otherwise, let's bring it to the front of the mat with us into our mountain stance. And remember that balance is easier when you've got your hands on your hips. So if you know that's a challenge point for you, I would start there and only add the arms once you feel stable. Otherwise, for a little challenge, here we go. Left knee lifting, standing crane. Feel free to take those arms on up. Make sure you've got enough distance between the hands so that you're not taking on neck tension here. Slow journey back to either your crescent lunge or your warrior 1 foot flat. And it might feel really great. Bring the arms down and back up. Or if you're not using a strap, sometimes we do those slicing arms. That can feel great too. Let's do one more and hold up. Long inhale. Send back through the heel and leg, forward and up through the ribs. Good. Come into spine neutral and then open up to warrior 2. So back foot flat, 90 degrees. Pause, check those thighs are externally rotating. And if you want to keep working with the strap, it can be kind of fun to give yourself something to resist. Otherwise, if you're not using it, just think about reaching out from your heart through the middle fingers. Another movement that I enjoy if I've got the strap between my hands here is kind of reaching up through the right arm and down through the left, just a little, not straight up to the sky, and neutraling it again. And you can feel some really great body work in the core body, I should say. Good, let's do one more inhale, and this time take it all the way up. And exhaling into either your lateral stretch with that arm reaching over the head towards the wall in front of you, or you can also keep the hands reaching for just floor and ceiling. So it's wherever you want to be today. Again, I'm continuing to use the strap and scarf, but you don't have to, right? You can kind of just drop it and come into some of that regular work that we do. And then as you're ready, come on up, turn both heels to parallel, so straddle. And I'm going to invite us to come on into a nice side-to-side straddle. So really pushing off with one foot and then the other. And again, we don't do much that's side to side, so this is a chance to wake up those muscles. Make sure that your feet are staying grounded. That's where it all begins. breathing. Would it feel good to reach? Maybe even counter reach. Take it down all the way to the ground. Maybe come back up to the sky. Maybe over to the side. So I'm really hoping you'll feel inside of this with your breath. Notice what's happening in your body and make adjustments. I mean, this should feel like almost like a moving massage. It's the best way I could think of it. Last few explorations here. And come on back to center. Now, if you are in a forward fold, follow the same principle we talked about. Move your heels in a little because you're in a pretty wide straddle. But then drop the butt so that the spine is straight and use the legs to push up. Nice work. Roll out those ankles and let's return into our mountain stance with or without your strap. Find that deep inner anchoring through the foot. And as you're ready, inhaling, right knee up, standing frame. Exhaling, step back. Crescent lunge or warrior one. You might decide to stay steady with the arms or do some movements down and up. Really make it fluid and delicious. So if you feel like you're putting a lot of effort into this, dial it back a little bit, okay? I want us to be able to feel really easy in the neck and trap muscles. One more long inhale, moving forward through the ribs and up, powering back through that back leg. Deep inhale. Exhaling, plant that right foot, warrior two. And again, you might use the strap or no, either way, reaching out from the heart. It can be wonderful in this pose, I find, to move your vision around, look behind you and in front again. It's great for the neck. It's also a balance challenge. And then if you'd like those little movements of letting that front arm come a little up and then back to parallel with the earth. Remember, if it bothers your neck, just don't look up. Keep it neutral. And now long inhale, taking that arm all the way up and then forward into your version of our lateral stretch. Nice stretch through that right side of the body, which you can intensify by taking the arm out beyond the head. Breathing, softening into what's there. And then as you're ready, coming up all from the power of that back leg. Marvelous. Turn your feet parallel so you're in that 5-pointed star. And just hold here. Hold for about 3 breaths. Notice your heart rate. Find that breath and slow it down. This is a beautiful place to affirm your well-being, your strength, your resiliency. It's a great place to affirm joy and gratitude, to feel thankful. Good. Now turn the heels in so it's more of a squat. One way to know what's the right angle for you is if you jump and you re-land, that angle is natural. And then I just want you to start sweeping the right arm. So it's like I'm clearing, I've got maybe a U-shaped table or something around me, and I'm clearing the surface of it. Notice I've got a pretty deep squat. I'm not standing up here and just Elvising my knees. I'm pretty low and I'm grounding and rooting with the legs, so the knees are pretty stable. And I'm stretching and rotating through the waist. And you can go slow or speed it up. breathe. Let's do just a few more this side. Good. Let's find the other side. Is this side different? And come on out. Good. Let's bring those legs together. Whew. Shake them out. Roll ankles. Roll wrists. Awesome. So I'm hoping that you're feeling pretty strong in your back. I want to come into that pose that we were doing, this sort of toothbrushing pose, as I think of it. So you just take the feet wide again. Remember, your job is to find straight from tailbone to crown. Sit down a little bit into a chair and then hinge at the hip and feel that front body come on in, okay? So reignite that feeling there. Good. I want to take that same thing into a lunge. So remember that feeling. You can come to the front of the mat. We're going to step back with the left leg and pause here and make sure you feel stable. If your balance is challenged, being with the foot flat in Warrior One is going to be easier. Either way, find the hip alignment of right hip bone back, left hip bone forward. And I'm hoping you can feel how that kind of what we call scissors your thighs, that you feel really strong and stable right here in this inner thigh area. Okay, without angling your right knee in. We don't want to do that. We want that still straight forward, right hip bone drawing back. So now we're going to reignite that long back experience, finding it now from your back foot through to your crown. Start to hinge and see what position feels like a good stopping point where you still feel strong, but good work happening. Maybe it's lower. Find elongation through the neck. I know I tend to shorten the back of it if I don't check it. See if you've got one more full breath. You might be feeling this very powerfully in your right glute. Inhaling back up. You can even add a reach to the sky if you'd like. And returning to your mountain stance. Easier done with hands on hips. Whew, hello, right leg. Now you can also just, make your way back in multiple steps. You don't have to do one like I just did. All right, right leg back. Give that one a break. Steer the right hip bone forward, left hip bone back. And really check that you're working the front of that thigh, pressing it back. Okay. So now hinging slowly in that left hip, keeping the spine straight. Again, you might just come to a little bit of an angle, and you can still do great work there, or you might come farther. Elongate the back of the neck. Activate those jet airplane arms. Shoulder heads keep sliding down towards your hips. See if you've got one more breath here. And does it feel different on this side? Still pressing long through the crown. Come on up. If you'd like, reach the arms to the sky. Exhaling, prayer hands. You are powerful. And return. All right. One more stretch I want to give us here before we come on down to the mat to balance out our front body from what we just did. And that's our standing quadricep stretch. However, you might prefer coming onto the belly and doing bow pose. You're very welcome to do that. If you find the balance portion of things in general hard, absolutely going over to a wall and connecting there is valuable. So you end up having a wall in front of you. You don't want it to the side as much because that'll tend to make you kind of do funny things. So you'd want it in front of you, but close enough that you're not having to lean to get to it, okay? If reaching your ankle is the hard part, then go ahead and take your strap and loop it around your ankle like so. And so you would be able to connect with the wall and have your one hand on the strap like so. The challenge is you need to hike up as far as you can so that you'll get the proper stretch. Otherwise, you'll be like, why have I got my foot in there? What's it doing for me? So one of the keys of this practice is that your bent knee is trying to come back towards alignment with the standing leg. So you don't want it in front of you at all. And you also want it to come back into alignment center-wise. So there's a temptation when you grab your ankle to have that knee out to the side. Anchor that back in with all that good thigh strength that you built up earlier. If you're feeling much pressure in the low back, make sure you're really tightening the glutes, and that'll help create some of that tractioning. But we're going to return to that nice support under the sacrum in a few minutes, so it'll really bring you back into that tractioning again. When you're done with that side, explore the other side. And maybe you're connecting with a wall right in front of you. Just don't lean towards it. Breathing and noticing. There's so much to notice here. If you've gotten a good edge, there's a lot of sensation happening, probably all the way from the knee, I hope at least into the hip flexors, and maybe even into that low psoas muscle that we talked about. So when you're ready, you can kick that side out, roll ankles. I want to return once again to each side and offer an add-on. If this was plenty, then just do each side again. And we'd love to hold each side for a little bit longer. So I'll talk you through that. As you're ready, clasping one ankle, whichever one you want to work with. Breathing here for about 3 or 4 breaths, really finding that sweet edge. I should have said another option for people who might be really tight and have a hard time even grabbing their ankle or a scarf is sometimes you can put the shin up on an object. Okay, so for those of you who want to take this to a slightly different edge, I want you to hinge at the hip. Make sure that standing leg is a little bent, by the way. I don't want it locked. A little bit bent. Hinge at the hip. Just as far as feels like the right thing. I want you to still almost feel that thigh scissoring, meaning this is not winging out. The right leg is scissoring in towards the left hip bone back, right hip bone forward. And then if you'd like, you can send it into a little standing dancer, pressing that ankle into the hand. Really important here that I've still got support in the lower belly and the glutes. If you want to add the reach of that free hand, go for it. When you come out, love it up, shake it out. All right, let's find the other side. So again, spending 3 or 4 breaths at least, just working with the base pose, finding the sensation, the right amount of stretch, your breath. You can also flare those yoga toes. You can bring that intelligence way down into your feet. Bend that standing leg a little bit if you're moving into standing dancer with me. Slowly hinging. The heel is still towards my butt. I'm creating the hinge first so that I can play with one thing at a time. Good, find a nice long spine. Check that the bent leg is not winging out. And then as you're ready, pressing it into the hand to create the stretch. Let your shoulder blade kind of wrap in towards the body. Such a good stretch. And maybe you're adding a reach through that free arm. Is this side different? Hold for as many breaths as feels good. Wobbling, breathe right through it. And then as you're ready, come on out and ragdoll. Just let the body hang. Again, how do we go in and out of those folds? We bend through the knees, and then we drape the body down. You might wrap your hands around opposite bicep or just let the arms kind of hang. You can even kind of rotate a little bit and sweep the area around the feet. Otherwise, asking you to stay here for about another half a dozen breaths or so. My hope is you've already created some good fluidity through the legs and the butt and back. And you can really send breath now in and massage them, invite them to kind of let go of any stagnation. So I want to offer today, and I'm just chatting away while you're doing that, so do not rush. But I want to offer both the supported pose under the sacrum, as I mentioned, and then I want to move towards one of our other favorite desserts, as I think of it, where we support under the bra strap. And I really want that to be comfortable enough that we can hang out there for a little bit and really allow some decompression through the joints and kind of a little bit of a yogic sleep right there in that shape. So when you are ready, having both a block and possibly a throw, etc., handy, come on down once again to your back body. Lift the hips and place the object of support. So I started off our practice today using my folded up throw under the sacrum. I'm going to move to the block now and just see if that feels like the right height. Again, you can be with knees bent and then explore straightening the legs. Hang out in the place that feels the best. Again, there's no goal like, oh, straight legs is better. No, just find the best dessert. Breathe. When we pause like this and we hang out in breath, it sends a wonderful message to the whole body that all that good effort we just put in, all the waking up of neural pathways and uh, letting go of some of the stored tension in our tissue, that this is just all really fun and good for us. That there's, again, no striving, no effort. And as you breathe, I hope you can feel your body kind of allowing a deeper level of stretch, of giving in. As you are ready to move on to the supported stretch under the bra strap, again, finding that right quality of stretch is really key. I'm going to start with the block under my rib cage, but then have my throw here that I'm going to kind of roll up into that just right height to support my neck and head. And for me, this feels like a really nice amount. If you go to do the block like I am and you feel kind of a pull into your low back, then I would definitely want you to go to something shorter, flatter. So you could use, again, something like a rolled or folded up towel, or if you have a smaller block. This one I have is quite tall. And really let your limbs relax. You can maybe take your feet out wide, let your palms roll open to the sky. I know some people really enjoy some of the shoulder stretch we can do here where you reach one arm to the sky and overhead, and you can kind of wave it a little left and right. So you might add that on too. But then as you are ready, please become very still. Once again, turn your gaze up and in towards that third eye point, right between the eyebrows and up, center of the forehead. Let go of all breath effort of any kind. So no ujjayi, no effort anywhere. How soft can you get? Feel a softening in the eyes and eyebrows, in the lips and tongue and jaw. Sense of relaxation in the scalp and all the way down to the base of the skull where it joins the neck. You can always roll the head a little bit side to side. Let that softening and letting go move down into your torso and out into the arms and hands and down into the hips and low back and pelvis and out into your legs and down into the feet, feeling your heels getting heavier on the mat. So we started off our practice with our Sufi grind, that circling seated motion. And I invited you to consider something that you'd like to unwind, a pattern or a thought form, and then something that you would like to bring in the building sequence, if you will, something to put in place. So I'm going to invite you to just return to those two concepts. And maybe you didn't find anything that really was felt poignant to you. This would be a beautiful time to try something new, but inviting you to first bring in the thought form, and you might see it almost like a ticker tape across your mind's eye, a word or phrase, or maybe it has a color for you. What are you ready to release or unwind? And inviting you in 3 sighing breaths. You might notice that your quality of your sighs changed. Maybe it just became more gentle as you released more of that energy. And then conversely, what energy would you like to bring in, to build on, to nourish, to fertilize? My hope is that as you have that thought, maybe there's an image that goes along with it, that you might sense a bodily response, like a lift in your abdomen and your heart space. Maybe you find yourself smiling a little bit. These would all be great indicators that you found something that holds energy for you, right? It's not just another word, another goal. What's poignant right now? If you're just not quite finding anything, by the way, I would encourage you to return to this process again. You might do it later today when you're just out on a walk. You might do it last thing before drifting off to bed, and first thing again in the morning when you wake up. You could journal about it. But we know that our thoughts are very, very powerful. And if we get clear for ourselves about what's really appropriate for us right now, that will tend to just really help direct our energies. As an example, I had come up the other day with the phrase as my goal, living with ease or living in ease. And it was very interesting because someone kind of offered an idea of something to do. And my first thought was, well, that sounds hard. And I was like, oh, that doesn't fit in my living in ease. And I was like, no, thank you. So, it's helpful to have a guidepost, if you will, that allows you to know what's appropriate for me right now, what isn't. I thank you so much for being here with me. It's really a pleasure and an honor to practice with you. I'm going to just close our practice with 3 chimes of the singing bowl. And if you are in a nice deep state and you want to stay as you are, I encourage you to do that. The longer the Shavasana or meditation, the better. Sending you so many blessings. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace, Peace. Namaste. Well, I hope you feel great in your body with everything you do with it. Have fun, be respectful, do more yoga.